that's never been here before? Awesome. And the rest of you guys are all returning veterans. Good, good. I'm excited to be here. Today's topic is kind of a series of different topics that we have gone through. We've talked a lot about health and fitness, nutrition, dialing it in, and this one here is you're going to have a series of handouts coming around to you guys, and this is called Overcoming the Fear of Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, when it comes to health and fitness, really do have a bad rap. They do have a bad rap, and it's nothing new. For many years, the carbohydrate is usually the first that kind of gets the big red marker, the big red marker when it comes to improving our overall health, or in this sort of topic, weight loss or health and fitness. And but that's not all true. So today's presentation, remember, anytime if you guys have questions, and you guys are always a great group, you always have really good questions. At any time, raise your hand. I'm not going to try to bore you though with carbohydrates and really breaking it down into the chemistry and all the breakdown and digestion. I don't want to bore anybody like that. So it's going to be a really good, you're going to reference through some of these different topics and handouts. For those that have been to this before, you're going to see some of these familiar handouts of the past. And some that we'll go through and we'll kind of reference to as well. And again, at any time, please raise your hand anytime, and we can kind of answer that and then carry on from there. For everybody brand new, and for those that forgot, I'm originally from Pawnee City. We actually do have a Union Bank in Pawnee City. Yes. I forgot his first name. Harvey Snyder is his name. Harvey, his sons had graduated with my older brother years ago. So I've known Harvey and those guys from Pawnee City for many years. And but I graduated from Pawnee City back in 1994. Came to Lincoln. Other than Union Bank being in Pawnee City, only one other person claims to be from that area in that town, and there's the Kim guy. All right, so other Union Bank. But no, seriously, guys. Came to Lincoln in 1994 with the goal of starting right into health and fitness. But like many, I always do share that as well. That are coming to college, and a lot of the younger interns that are at the health club right now, high school students, I was unsure of really what I wanted to do. How I jumped into health and fitness, a little bit of a background on that. I had an older brother that was working for a health club here in town that I was coming to college, I needed a part-time job, I needed something to do. And he gave me kind of the first beginning entry-level position you could have at the gym that he was the manager of. Like I do share with many people, working from the bottom on up and working all the way throughout the years, I started off, with this gym, opening the gym, cleaning, flowers, stocking shelves, dusting, vacuuming, cleaning toilets, all these sort of things. But I also had the opportunity to close the gym on Saturday and Sunday nights. So I opened and closed Saturday and Sunday nights. So my social life was pretty much zero. Coming into college, I was kind of hoping to have a little bit of a life, but he gave me an opportunity, and together today, we reunited 4 years ago and opened Good Life Fitness, and it's been a great venture. But as time goes on, going through the years of, again, for those that have been to the presentation before, my background was a lot into personal training. For the health club that I worked at, as time went on, I became a personal trainer that traveled between Lincoln and Omaha for this main health club that we were with for 10 years, and helping people achieve fitness success through either improving the quality of life, weight loss, maybe new moms trying to get back in shape, get their bodies back, younger children that were just trying to learn how to get active, learn the beginning safety and all the different etiquette of the health club rules. I had a lot of great opportunity to do that. But when it all went back into the nutrition, typically when we were trying to help individuals, either drop some weight, drop some inches, improve their energy, maybe recovering from surgery or getting back up and going from physical therapy, a lot of people always had a fear of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates were always the ones that a lot of people would always emphasize on. But seeing, as you might have noticed as well, throughout the years, there's been well over 10,000 books produced, well over 10,000, and endless articles on the so-called best way to help you lose weight, lose inches, improve performance. And then there's a lot of trends that do go on, but it all kind of boils back down to really trying to focus on the carbohydrate. This topic is a touchy subject for some. A lot of times in these presentations, I'm really trying to being careful not identifying certain types of diets because of certain belief systems, such as The trends that are current as of today are still at, really identifying the carbohydrate not being the most favorable. So I'm going to kind of show you a couple things why you do not want to try to use that sort of a plan to get you for long-term success. Short-term success for sure, but for long-term, I don't truly believe, and that's the best method to do. With the weather turning, and hopefully with the the 60-degree weather that's coming up this weekend, a lot of people are already kind of excited. Some people are counting down spring. A lot of weddings coming up. Personally, a lot of short-term goals for people. And myself personally, I'm going back to my hometown to play alumni basketball. Now, where we're from, we still play shirt and skins. I don't know why that's possible, because my dad's team, who graduated in 1961, they are still shirt and skins. So I always tell Dad, I'm like, Dad, you can't be pulling these up like Steve Urkel going down the court anymore. We got to, and my fear is, obviously, I'm going to be a skin. So months ago, I started on really dialing in on the nutrition. But with the short-term goals that many people have that kind of motivate you for the long-term success, carbohydrate is usually the first thing that we are trying to be careful on when we want to hit some goals. The first on your handout that you guys have is going to be this one right here. We'll just go right to this one. For those that have been to the presentation before, this basically kind of outlines a series of steps and processes that can kind of happen to individuals that do start to eliminate food groups from their nutrition program. My thought, my whole philosophy on nutrition is you only have basically 3 factors to use, and there's a 4th one as well. The 3 B's and caloric intake. All right, so the 3 B's are all of your meals should be basic, balanced, and best choices of food in each of the food groups, such as protein, carbohydrate, and fat, for long-term best success. All right, so the 3 B's is how you want to make sure your nutrition program is becoming developed around. It's very easy to identify the carbohydrate being bad, and the reason why the people do take out the carbohydrate on nutrition programs is they see immediate success by doing that. You might have, read or maybe you've seen some publications, or if you're on Facebook, I dropped 2 pant sizes in 4 weeks, stuff like that. Typically, if you really dial in to see what they did to do that, the carbohydrate is usually something that was really trying to be circled and identified as being a negative. All right. So the carbohydrate is not a bad thing by any means, and we'll kind of go through that and show that. But when you eliminate or reduce certain food groups in a nutrition program, because it can only work with those 3 ingredients, protein, the carbohydrate, and fat, but when you eliminate and reduce certain ones and flip those ratios around, they also work the 4th factor, which is total calorie. Okay, so when you eliminate the carbohydrate and you reduce that number, you're going to also affect your total calorie intake. So as you notice on this, in the beginning, and we've talked about ways to kind of stay motivated, ways to kind of help you stay on track. The body weight scale is only one factor of your motivation for success. The others is going to be your circumference measurements. The other is going to be your body fat. And then the other is, we've talked about as well, is your blood circumferences. Those are all important things to keep on check. As we've talked about that before, a lot of you do updated blood work every year or bi-yearly or however you're doing it. But a couple things on this. The body fat and body weight on this diagram is something to really kind of note in the beginning, but also noted at the end. Typically what will happen is on this, when individuals are reducing that one food group, which is the carbohydrate, they'll drop instant weight within the first few days pretty fast actually. And that's huge, because we're all motivated, want to see some results. So when that happens, that motivation usually will last about 4 weeks. 4 weeks because, you might drop 4, 6, 8, 10 pounds within maybe 10 days easily. Some do a little bit further, past that. Maybe some are slower, some are faster. But as you read through here, 4 weeks is usually the motivational mark that really people can stay committed to something that's not something they can keep maintaining over a period of 12 weeks. As a person's going through in this process, when you read through this, one thing that you don't want to do is reduce the total calorie intake in a nutrition program to too low of a number. The reason being on that is with the carbohydrates being reduced and cut down, you're also reducing those calories too. But when the calories get too low, what will happen is we use muscle as an energy source. So what ends up happening is when the calories are dropping down into a lower level, which is not, a safe level, you're going to start sacrificing muscle tissue. But when you sacrifice muscle tissue, you're also sacrificing metabolism. Typically throughout the years, your body, keep in mind, is always like a computer. It has a memory of everything we've ever done to it, which is so neat about it. And it's very smart, and it always likes to have balance and equilibrium. But when an individual has followed a plan that is reduce food groups, add a ratio, and reduce calories, I think it's one of the factors, the reason why a lot of people are very stubborn or hit plateaus in weight loss, because the body has been manipulated so many times, and typically that'll happen by reduction of carbohydrate, and in return, reduction of caloric intake. Because when that muscle leaves the body, which we need for metabolism, and you lose that muscle, and in return, you actually do harm your metabolism by doing things such as this. And so a lot of times you'll find certain nutrition programs will advocate reduction or restriction of certain types of foods, but then they don't advocate exercise. Exercise increases appetite, obviously, but when you're reducing a food group, but you're also reducing calorie, they don't want you to exercise to increase your appetite. So it's kind of a 50-50 there. A lot of people are doing harmful things, but they are seeing success though on the scale or inches. Now, on the digestion of carbohydrates, the one thing about it, guys, is so you realize and look at this, carbohydrates, without boring you on the chemistry part of it, carbohydrate, when it digests through the body, the liver stores glycogen. And the glycogen is good. Glycogen is good for overall brain functioning, overall performance, overall general health as well. But the digestion process of carbohydrate, also, the side effect is water. Water is what's being bonded to that as it goes through a digestion process. So the reason why instant weight loss happens is that when the individuals reduce the carbohydrate, you reduce water in the body. It's not initial fat loss by any means. So if a person's dropping 6 to 10 pounds in a week or 10 days, that's not fat loss, that's pure water loss. But this might be a girl term here, maybe not. But you commonly hear fluffy. I feel like I'm bloated, retaining water, all these fluffy terms that we use. Typically this happens when we start adding carbohydrates back to the diet again. But when you add the carbs back to the diet, you add water back with them. So all of a sudden you just feel like, oh my gosh, the scale's going everywhere, or it's bouncing. A lot of times you see it, it shows you a really good number, and then the next day you jump on and you're like, oh man, I'm up 6 pounds, why is that? Or 4 pounds, or however. But when that short-term motivation burns off, what explains this little process, they start adding in carbohydrates, but their metabolism was damaged. They add the carbohydrates in, they start retaining water, the metabolism isn't efficient because the calories were too low, all of a sudden here comes the weight back on. Many of you maybe have known people like that, or throughout the past that have done plans such as that, or have identified and started reducing their carbohydrates, all sorts of different things. But the bad thing is though, when that body starts adding that fluid back on, and it starts balancing back out because you've added the carbs, when you try to reduce your body weight again, or whatever you start to do again, your body's going to be a little bit resilient to it in the beginning. A lot of people are like that. I don't know if you've known people like that. I personally have worked with friends that have had struggles along the way. They, the first time they started exercise, they dropped really well. And then they take a break and they drop off. They come back again, they start to exercise again, and nothing changes. The body again has a memory, and so it does put up a defense mechanism, remembering what may have happened in the past, or it may be remembered that it was on a restrictive low-calorie diet the first time you lost. So a couple of interesting things to note though, is you'll end up finding, even though the weight loss might happen in the beginning phases of that first 4 weeks, but look how they ended up at the end. The one thing at the end, they end up actually gaining body weight a little bit more than they did at the start, but the reason being is this, of course, water retention from the carbohydrate. But since they lost their muscle, their body fat percentage actually went up a little bit. For those that have been to the presentation before, my transformation personally went from 205 to 129. And the reason why my transformation happened, if off memory, was not something I could control. It was from an accident that I had had where, basically waist down for about 10 months in a wheelchair. But muscle loss was happening all over. So, I was just basically the incredible, as my brother called me, the incredible shrinking man. As I was shrinking down to 129. But the interesting thing about it is that 175 now, my body fat now is higher than it was the first time as it was dropping. So if that makes sense, my body fat's higher now at 175 as it was when I was coming down from 205. Because I lost so much muscle mass, the metabolism got damaged on the way down. So a couple things just so you are seeing through that. This process is really interesting to take a time and look through this. And a lot of times, people that when they're coming in, and we do all customized nutrition, a lot of people are frustrated in the beginning of numbers not changing fast enough or quick enough. But when you really dial back into the history, a lot of people will completely eliminate carbohydrates when they want to start doing a weight loss journey. So that's kind of a cool little thing there for you guys as well. Since we did talk a little bit about metabolism and muscle, the one thing that I have included here is figuring out this is a balanced out meal of why carbohydrates spaced through the big three main meal plans here are important. Remember when you do your carbohydrates is that I find that individuals like, for example, I had an individual last night in one of my boot camps. She's on MTV Road Rules. Anybody ever watch that show? MTV Road Rules? I actually used to watch Road Rules a lot. She's a girl that featured on Road Rules, and they're doing a big weight loss challenge for MTV right now. Last night she struggled through class. I came up to her, she was like this, and that's not her. She's normally all over the place in boot camp. I go, what's wrong? She's like, I don't know, I just feel real lethargic today. I feel almost lightheaded. So I sat down, I go, well, what are you doing for nutrition right now? She's like, well, being real tight right now, real restrictive. And what she was doing though, was no carbohydrates past 12 o'clock on. None. Only carbohydrates she would have was salad or vegetables. So from noon on, and I had her last night at 5:30, at 6:30, and about 20 minutes left of class, she was having to sit down. So what was happening is all her energy sources are changing. So the carbohydrates that she used to have for her energy through her workout, now the body's confused, doesn't know what to do, and her struggle of performance was really high, where she was getting the lightheadedness, almost felt like she was diabetic, the hyperglycemia, all the sort of things that we get when we reduce carbohydrates. Again, short-term goals to really succeed quickly, but performance sacrificed with the way she felt. The individual here, this is a meal plan that is very low in calories. That's why I give this to you. This is not actually a meal plan that you should follow. And remember how you figure out your calorie intake. The baseline is your body weight times 10. Body weight times 10 is your baseline calorie intake to look at. From there, you can adjust it either higher or lower. But a lot of people always ask about, what is the correct balance of carbohydrates throughout a day's plan? And if you'll look at these, they're going for breakfast, lunch, which is meal 3, and then I believe meal 5 is your supper. Now this is very basic food, and that you're seeing here outlined. And the thing about it is, there is not a lopsidedness of restriction. There's not basically from the noon on, there's carbohydrates coming through. If it's coming in through meal 4, meal 6 at nighttime, or however you're doing your plan, but there's not a lopsided of full restriction of the carbohydrate out of the plan. And that you'll see that even on the 12 or 1300 calorie nutrition program right there. A lot of things a lot of people ask about too with the carbohydrate is the old theory, no carbohydrates past 6 o'clock at night. Is that still in effect? The key is though, it's all about balance of macros. Okay, so basically you want to make sure that you can still eat carbohydrates past 6 o'clock at night, but it just has to make sense that you're not over exceeding the total amount that you're supposed to have for you. Okay, so a lot of people do that where they figure out their meals are being divided out evenly throughout the day. And notice that these are supposed to be spaced out about every 3 to 4 hours through your day's time. So breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, mid-afternoon, supper, mid-evening, and how they're spaced out. But a lot of times that whole theory of reduction of calories by eliminating the carbohydrate at evening time, if it still fits in and it's still allowed for you to have those carbohydrates for that day's time, it's not a bad thing to continue with those. All right, just so you see that. one of our nutritionists at the gym has been a veteran. I met him back in 1994. As at the age of 40, has set several big type goals that he wanted to achieve, but won a pro bodybuilding card. And he is just, when he walks around, just unbelievably lean. But the thing is, a lot of people think that he does no carbohydrates in his diet. This is actually his diet. This is what he follows, but calories are much different, obviously, for him, and much higher than I'm showing here. But he actually wrote this. This is his meal plan. And as you do notice, even at meal 6, which is typically his supper, the way he works, he is still doing sweet potatoes for that last meal at nighttime for himself. But if he did completely restrict his carbohydrates back, that's not a good thing, because after the shows that he competes in, he would have a huge fluctuation of water. The guy looks good year-round. And the reason why he looks good year-round, he doesn't restrict or pull back carbohydrates out of the diet, so he doesn't fluctuate so much in appearance or the scale. So this is kind of an example there for you as well. For those that have these handouts, remember the ultimate goal. Even if you notice our newest shred menu that is now located through Lincoln, for those that have been to the presentation before, the ultimate goal was to offer a lot of interesting options for people throughout Lincoln to be able to eat on a plan. If you look at these, you'll notice that everything is broken down from the balance of how much protein, the carbohydrate, the fat, the sodium, everything is broken down. And to get this meal done, or these menus done, took a lot of work. And it's actually done by this guy here, did these for this company. The interesting thing about it was there is no restriction. As you'll notice, these meals are balanced out. But if you might note here though, these are 2 servings. So one thing when you're looking at these options, there is still a whole wheat carbohydrate in there that is available in these wraps. And as you're going in, even in the veggie wrap, it's a whole wheat tortilla wrap. The turkey avocado wrap is still a whole wheat tortilla wrap as well. And then of course with the salad, the one thing that we did do, which I thought was really important, is that is actually their #1 choice for people now in Lincoln are choosing this one here that are going to that restaurant. The shred menu, but it's also available that you'll have with Mr. Good Sense. I did not want to eliminate 100% of the carbohydrates out of those options. And again, the thing is that with the carbohydrates, a lot of people, again, going back, have the bad stigma about carbs. You're not definitely going in and eating chips and popcorn and eating all these empty or higher glycemic carbohydrates, but you'll notice on those 2 options that you see there, they do have a whole wheat option on there. And the reason why I chose that is it is what we call a lower digestion carbohydrate, a lower glycemic carbohydrate. For those that maybe are diabetic or not, I'm not sure if you are, the carbohydrate back in 1981 had the very first glycemic index. The glycemic index that was developed by a physician used this in helping individuals with diabetes. But the thing that's interesting to note about the glycemic index, which is usually talked about when you look at the carbohydrate, it was used for individuals that were on a fasted state. So they had fasted for 12 hours before they did the blood draws to help see how the digestion of these different carbohydrates. That's how they were rating the numbers on the scale. But for an exercising individual, or when you balance out the meal, the glycemic index is not nearly as effective as far as having those numbers are not nearly as important if they're eating by themselves or eating on a fasted state. So when you look at the different types of carbohydrates that are put with other food groups balance themselves out, and it does reduce the impact of that glycemic index. The reason why I personally chose these carbohydrates is for long-term health. I wanted to make sure that the carbohydrate gives you the best energy that you can have at a slower digestion rate than a white, higher starchy type, white bread, white pasta, the other options that you may have. So that's why we noticed that the whole wheats, the oatmeals, the flaxseed type bread, these things that digest with a higher fiber content are a better choice of carbohydrate to be choosing for overall better blood sugar, long-term health, and I also think for better energy for your day. So that's why you're going to start noticing that. Has anybody ever been to Brenda's Gourmet at all? A few of you guys have? Has anybody tried this yet? I don't know if you have.
I've only had their black bean soup.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
This here actually just started 2 days ago. So you might you'll start seeing this right now. I talked to the owner last night to see how it's going. And he said, everybody's coming in and buying this one right here. This is the choice that they're doing, that top salad option. And so if in doubt, some really cool ones as well. Mr. Good Sense, has anybody ever tried the shred menu from Mr. Good Sense yet? So you'll see that when you go into the different Mr. Good Sense, which has been passed around there, the different options as well. And what about Juice Stop? Has anybody gone into Juice Stop and tried the shred menu inside Juice Stops yet? They're inside Juice Stop as well. Did anybody try the shred coffee? We're not talking about carbohydrates there, but shred coffee from Scooters yet? Oso Burrito? Anybody know the Oso Burrito? Crave? Tried the shred menu at Crave? All right. How about McDonald's? Anybody try McDonald's? All right, no. Anyway, the newest one, guys, just so you do know, coming up, there's going to be 2 new options. The one downtown is called Oso Ramen. The same guy that owns Yaya's Pizza. We have a shred pizza there with a whole wheat crust. Oso Burrito out here on 70th. But downtown where Oso Burrito is currently is a new restaurant called Oso Ramen. Oso Ramen is actually a noodle bar, a whole wheat noodle that is going to be the option for our shred menu. And just like Chipotle, you pick and choose your options you want to go on your noodles, kind of like Noodles and Company, but this one will be measured out. So rather than just kind of eyeballing a serving for you, you'll actually have it all done for you. A new one, Mexican restaurant coming downtown as well, will be a shred menu. You can actually do very healthy options with the carbohydrates, keeping in the lower digestion, the good source of carbohydrates in the Mexican option as well. That's coming downtown too. So a lot of cool ones, guys, that you'll have an option to see throughout Lincoln. So any questions on this? Does anybody have any questions on the, yes?
You mentioned the Juice Stop shred menu, and can you just touch a little bit on fruit carbs in comparison to the more like whole wheat carbs that we've been talking about?
That's a good point, yeah. You know, fruit carbohydrates do digest pretty quick. You know, you're going to get a good insulin response from them. They are going to digest quicker and faster, but there is a difference on the way the carbohydrates digest within the body. What we did with Juice Stop was looking for juices, you know, or options that are going to be in a lower carbohydrate to help balance out the options for people. Some of them that people were choosing, the one that we have there is called America's Cup, which is their #1 seller right now. But the Good Life is a lower carb juice. So I tried to balance out that meal a little bit, or that drink a little bit better by reducing the total carbohydrates that you were consuming at one time for the total calories. But for fruits, you know, keep in mind, guys, on the fruit options in here, and you might notice as well, that some individuals are using, you know, mid-morning, they might add fruit in here as well. But fruits are going to definitely be a faster absorbing carbohydrate. Certain fruits that we've talked about in our other presentation we did called superfoods. Certain fruits are going to be a better option. Certain fruits actually have a lower pesticide rate if you're not going to choose a non-organic rate. But the goal with Juice Stop was just trying to keep the carbohydrate total numbers in check. And like I had told Nakia that owns the Juice Stop, I don't really have a lot of time to look through their books. But a lot of those options, I just wanted to take their first 2 that sold the most frequently and to see if we could change those balance numbers down a little bit and reduce the total carb intake from those juices that were being offered in their smoothies. If anybody have a favorite at Juice Stop, America's Cup, or anybody choose that one? I was shocked that the America's Cup is their #1 option that people buy at Juice Stop. So those are all throughout all 5 of their locations as well. You bet, guys. Good. Another good one that I want to kind of offer to you as well, if in doubt, if you are, maybe you are following a low carbohydrate option. The biggest, currently, a lot of people do struggle, and your one handout here is, let me flip it around here, guys, how to order when you eat out. These are a lot of good things. Now, the biggest thing, if you are following kind of a restricted, lower carbohydrate diet currently right now, you might find, though, your cravings are super, super high if you're in an uncontrolled state. Some individuals that cannot control their surroundings find that personally, you know, once they start getting into carbohydrates too much, then all of a sudden the cravings kick in. Has anybody ever watched Finding Nemo? Finding Nemo? Okay, I've watched that show. I've got 3 children. I've watched that show 1,000 times. But the thing I really liked about the show is every time I watch it, I learn something new. Like Toy Story, every time I sit there and really watch the show again and again and again, I learn a little something new about the show I didn't see the first time. But the one thing about lower carbohydrates and then not being able to control your environment, it's just like the shark. Remember Bruce, the shark, the buddies, there were 3 sharks. Big white, great white shark called Bruce, and he had his 2 friends. And if you remember the show, they were boycotting, they were gonna say that they were gonna become vegetarians. I don't know if you guys remember that scene or not. And they were saying fish are friends, not food, and they're all laughing around. Well, the 2 fish, Dory and Marlin, the good fish, were arguing. I don't know if you remember the scene or not. They're arguing back and forth, and all of a sudden Dory gets a bloody nose. I don't know if you remember that. Within that scene, the bloody nose, you can see the blood filtering up through the water, and Bruce, who has now become a vegetarian, all of a sudden, and you can see his nose start to wrinkle a little bit, but all of a sudden he senses that blood in the water, and it's just an all-out feeding frenzy. That's the way I am on Girl Scout cookies. I am the same identical way. Has anybody bought Girl Scout cookies? I have. I've bought twice, I'll admit. And I did. I went to support the little girl. But the thing is, though, same thing. When you restrict and pull back on a low-carbohydrate diet, remember, in the first 4 weeks, you see results. So you're motivated and your defense mechanisms are high. But once that 4 weeks goes past, you'll slip up and you'll make poor choices. But when you go out to restaurants, if you don't eat off the shred menu, if you go to these different locations, here's the ways that you can actually order at a restaurant. The interesting thing about it is too, different ways that you can actually specifically ask that waitress or waiter how to order your meal. And this is a kind of a cool little thing I wanted for you guys to have as well. Another one as well when you're going in is looking back through is recording and balancing out your nutrition. This is a little handout that we've used before, but does anybody record by longhand anymore their nutrition journaling? Does anybody journal just writing down anymore in here? Does anybody use the online application still? Like, which one do you like?
Fitness Pal or chronometers?
Yes.
Chronometer?
Okay. iPhones have a lot of Fitness Pal. You got mydailyplate.com. There's a lot of good ones right now that you can use to journalize your nutrition. This one here is a longhand way. One reason why I thought this is pretty important, if you were maybe at the beginning of the year, because remember January to March, everybody's motivated to see results, especially right away. But 65% of those individuals are going to start dropping off right now in March. But if they are hitting plateaus, like the group I spoke to yesterday, a lot of people raise their hand that they're not seeing results anymore. They're plateauing in their fitness. Go back and start writing down your nutrition. Maybe if you're tired all the time, maybe you feel like you want to lay under that table and take a nap about 3 o'clock today after lunch. Start journalizing your nutrition. This is a great troubleshooting way to help you. This one here is a plan and actual. Does anybody work off lists in here? Write a list the day before of what you want to accomplish today. Does anybody do that? Does anybody get mad when you can't get through all your list? I am one of them. I met with somebody earlier today. Yesterday I didn't get through anything on my list and it drove me crazy. Luckily last night I sat down and watched Rocky IV and took all my frustration out. I didn't sleep last night. I was so motivated from that show. But this is a plan and actual. The good thing about it is if you use the example that we did in the 12 to 1300 calorie diet, you can almost mimic what this would look like. But on your online applications, on your iPhones or your computers or your websites, the journaling is one way that helps people become successful for long term. I highly recommend that if you are plateauing, or maybe things haven't changed, or you are struggling with your energy and you're tired, this journaling is very, very beneficial for most individuals. One guy currently at the gym, we were in the middle of a 12-week transformation challenge. This guy, long story, he's a very busy guy, he's a surgeon, works a lot of hours, a lot of surgeries through the day. But one thing he talked about is he actually kind of enjoys journaling his nutrition. And that's one thing that keeps him on check. Because as a surgeon, they don't do caffeine. You don't want a shaky hand. So when his energy drops, he can't start drinking coffee if you have surgery. So he talked a lot about how this actually helped him keeping a mindfulness of what his daily meal intake was as far as calories. But he had found personally that he was skipping a lot of hours in between eating, and then he was getting a lot of energy drops when he was, in the mid-afternoon when he was tired. So here's a good thing for you guys as well. Going back, you guys are getting ready to start a new big challenge. 2,200 miles coming up here. So you guys have a challenge coming up. You're going to need some carbohydrates for that, all right? You don't want to become like we talked about last night where she had to sit down. She got sick by carbohydrates being too restricted, all right? Muscle mass. In the very first little diagram, what happens with individuals that are restricting calories or eliminating food groups, you want to make sure you maintain your muscle mass. And we kind of talked about that last time in one of the presentations called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is what they call the silent killer. After the age of 25, we start to lose 0.25% of muscle tissue a year. And that's the very minimum, of course. But you can reduce that and also prevent a lot of osteoporosis, overall blood pressure, and overall bone mass, which is very important in making sure we maintain it as we gracefully age. You should be resistance training. Resistance training is very, very, very important. The reason why I included this is it's good for the metabolism, it's good for your body, but it's so good for overall consistency of your fitness plan that you should be trying to follow. I'm going to raise a hand. How many of you guys in here exercise with weights? At least, cool. Wow, that's good. How many are just cardiovascular exercisers, walkers, but don't weight train? A couple of you guys. And then how many of you cross-train both worlds? Both worlds. This is a pretty fit group. How many are in here are partaking in the new upcoming challenge? Pretty good. And it's off teams, right?
Yep.
So you guys are going to have teams. Do you get to pick your own teammate?
You can choose your team, so if you need help finding teammates, just let me know.
That's good. Teammates are important. Our 12-week challenge this year, we added in team. There is husband-wife category or couple category, but now team. The one thing about the team is 6 weeks was to make it a breaking point in our challenge. We're at 6 weeks right now, and I did a raise of hands at 6:15 this morning. How many partners have dropped off? A lot of them. So what you need to do is you need to encourage them, motivate them, co-workers, check in on them, text message them. However, that's important. Like I said, I don't eat cookies very often, but when I do eat them in a very violent manner. And I do talk about, if you've been around the Christmas time, my favorite cookie, which is a very high carbohydrate, which you don't want to be doing, of course, with that type, is the Trader Joe's peppermint Oreos. Anybody found them? Don't do them. I found them. What I did, I was going in Christmas shopping. And this, I'll give you an example why team is important. I was going Christmas shopping at, the makeup place down at South Point. I forgot the name of it. What's it? Old Town. Okay, Old Town, yes. It wasn't going for makeup for me, honestly, but I'm walking on in. I get a text message on my phone. I'm like, it says, you don't need those Oreos. Whoa, it's kind of scary. So I'm looking around and I'll go ahead and respond back to it. It was my teammate that I run with, Bobby Kelly. I go, where are you at? He's like, I saw you walking across the parking lot. And the Ulta is right next to Trader Joe's. So, I could have went in and bought that box. No one would have known. But I didn't. Bobby Kelly, my teammate, encouraged me to go to Ulta instead of going to Trader Joe's to get those Oreos. Same thing for your upcoming challenge to be successful. Pair up with each other. Very, very important. Highly recommend, again, just like with the nutrition, those that partake in journaling their resistance programs down, rather than just going off memory or doing it off an iPhone or doing it off an online application, are highly successful. Because this is called lily hoppers. Lily hoppers are people in gyms that jump machine to machine to machine, but really have no rhyme or reason why they do what they do, or they stay on the same pattern for too long. It's important that you do record this because your success rate, when you're involved into it, is much higher, like your team challenge that you guys are getting ready to do next. Also, I did include on here, this is ways other than we talked about the scale. We've talked about that before. The scale is only one way to motivate you for success. Having your body fat done, that's also important to check. Remember, for female-wise, your goal is to get under 30%. Okay, 30% and lower is a goal for body fat in the female category. Ultimately, you want to be right around the 22 to 25 would be a great goal for so many people to stay within. 22 to 25 range. In the men, great category, under 20%. Under 20%, but a great goal for men would be, I'd say, depending on where our age bracket, 12 to 15% would be a great goal for men to be within. So that's kind of one thing to kind of keep in check as well. Also, do keep in mind, remember, when you reduce the carbohydrate, you will see instant success off of this scale. But when that scale is not showing you what you want because you're doing it the right way, monthly checkups of your circumference measurements are very, very important to do. It's a way to motivate yourself when you feel like quitting, especially right now in the month of March. A lot of people are starting to quit, like we talked about a second ago. The other one I did want to include for you guys as well, that is another little handout, is, I thought was pretty important. We talked a little bit about the overall, but this is how to become a successful long-term in weight management. This is hard for some people that have no weight and they're happy, which is great, but they don't really want to drop weight. I always ask them, how do you want to feel? They're like, well, I'm already thin, I'm okay with that. Well, good, but typically you might find though, that how your energy is through the day. And just to be honest, I have the type of body personally, being 205 and down to 129 back. You might see me at McDonald's 5 days a week. I won't really gain hardly that much at all. I know people are going to start yelling at me here, but I don't. But how I feel really shows it. I might not feel the greatest, don't feel the best because of the type of food choices I do. Long term inside, I don't know what I'm doing to myself, so I don't personally would choose that route. But if weight is not a goal for many, and you just want to focus on ways to motivate yourself, think about how your energy is in day-to-day life. But this sort of thing, to really focus on, is number three. This is also Screen Viewing Society. Personally, my job in the last 4 years is really converted over to being sedentary. I still teach about 6 classes a day, but a large majority of my day is computer now. It's not my favorite part of my job, but we all have that, of course. But one thing I have found in the last period of years of being more sedentary in front of the computer screen, right here, and right here. I feel like I have gained more through my midsection than I ever have before. My activity level has dropped drastically. So one thing I would do is, you guys have your pedometers, keep updating, keep tracking on your movement patterns through the day. Remember all those little simple things that you can do by parking further away in the parking lot. One company I speak for, if you are the employee of the month, then you don't get front door parking. They give you the back parking lot. That is the state pen. The state penitentiary, the warden was the fittest person that won the challenge. The warden, he doesn't get front door parking. He's actually clear in the back, but his pedometer steps. Isn't that kind of interesting? So that's how they rewarded him. They put him clear in the back. But anyway, the interesting thing about it is screen viewing. Screen viewing is very important. Make sure you guys get up, be more active. And again, the key is limiting the amount of hours that you are in front of these screens as much as you can, getting active and just being consistent with it as well. One thing is though, if you do have a little bit of time, these are habits individuals did. There's 7 habits in here that they maintained a weight loss for a period of 5 years. And this is very, very, very important. But the thing is though, recording their nutrition, keeping a check of their calories in and out, being balanced out. But number 4, not skipping breakfast. Skipping breakfast has a lot of repercussions of long-term things that you can recognize through the day. Cravings, lack of energy, overeating certain meals because you skipped a meal in the morning, overeating at supper time at nighttime, or digging through for Trader Joe Oreos at nighttime when you're sitting there watching Biggest Loser on the couch. All right, so skipping breakfast will definitely affect the way you feel and your cravings for carbohydrates for the rest of the day. Okay, good. The other one that I did want to include on there as well, that you guys might have not done, is if in doubt, any new moms out there. I don't know if there's any new moms. This is one of our newest updates that we have done. We actually include our nutrition program with these memberships now, just in case for new moms as well. But the reason why I do want to make sure that when you do your nutrition program, and like I said, I had, throughout the day and throughout the week, I have a lot of people that approach me for marketing and try to sell different things. But one thing I had recently was somebody that was trying to sell something that was pertaining to weddings. All right, so I sit down, I listened to it. But one thing that she asked me was, how come you do not sell fat burners in your facility? And I said, well, I just don't believe in that. She's like, well, you could gain a lot off that. You could see, people see results off that. Or she asked about the nutrition program. How come your nutrition program has this and this and balanced out carbohydrates? What about a low carb diet? She asked about that. And I said, that stuff works, but what about when those weddings are over? Then here it comes back. So I don't believe in the short-term, shortcuts to get you where you want to be. The nutrition program that comes with everything that we do isn't going to be one of those things that's going to drop 25 pounds a month off you. And I let people know that right away. It doesn't advocate the fat-burning pills like she asked about. I don't believe in that either because it's not for long-term health. Even though, like she said, you guys would make a killing here off that, I don't believe in that. And that's the reason why the carbohydrates should not be feared by so many. It should be a good thing, but always keep it in moderation and keep it in balance as well. So, to leave you guys with the one thing I would say, if you are struggling, anything at all, with your meal planning, your energy levels, maybe a long-term, health or anything at all, definitely seek the advice of somebody that can help you. Partake in your health and fitness programs that you guys have here, your challenges. The more active you can be, that is huge, because every little mile marker goal that you hit with these goals and with your new challenges you have is important for success of your long-term health. And but if you have any questions ever, please, don't ever hesitate to ask. You can always send me an email. You can always, let Rachel know as well. Or if you'd love to stop by the gym anytime, I'm there every day. You guys all do have a free week to the facility too, and anything we can help you with, please let me know. Thank you guys. Have a good day.